Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Today we have Ericka Kopp from Virginia's 1st Congressional District. She is running as a Democrat, and we are here to just ask her some questions about her platform, get to know a little bit more about her, why she's running, and see what we can do to hopefully get her into the November ballot, because there are a lot of Democrats from what I've looked into. So why don't you go ahead and start us off, Ericka? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are deciding to run.
Happy to, and thank you for having me. My name is Ericka Kopp. I am a healthcare attorney, a caregiver to a disabled combat veteran, and I am one of the more progressive voices currently running for Virginia's 1st District. Whether or not that ends up being Virginia's 1st District following the redistricting is another story, but for now, it is the 1st. I grew up in this district. I was raised here from the time that I was 3 years old. This community raised me, and now I want to give back to it because our voices are not being heard in DC.
Thank you. So, as you just mentioned, Virginia did vote last week to have their maps be redistricted, and there was a judge who determined that it was unconstitutional, and right now the case is being heard by the Virginia Supreme Court. So what impact, if any, will it have on your district in particular should the ballot or the map redistricting go through?
Yeah, so currently the district is a bit of an odd shape, and it goes from the northern neck and middle peninsula, which is on the Chesapeake Bay side of Virginia, and it comes west, goes around the north side of the city of Richmond in the suburbs, and then it goes around Richmond into a southwestern county called Chesterfield County. And the way that it would look after redistricting is I would be completely cut out of the 1st District. My house would no longer be in the 1st District under the new map. But the same would be true for the current representative, Rob Whitman, and the district would shift north. So instead of covering where I live, which is Henrico County, just north of the city of Richmond, it would go one county up from Hanover County and then go up I-95 up to Fairfax, which is part of Northern Virginia. So it would be very different in terms of what it is now versus what it would be.
And what are your thoughts about the redistricting that we have seen? Obviously, Texas legislators voted to redistrict Texas. In California, they had a proposition. Citizens voted to have their maps be redistrict. The Supreme Court just ruled a few days ago that Louisiana can no longer have predominantly Black majority districts. And so what are your thoughts about the whole redistricting process that we have been seeing as of lately?
To start, mid-year redistricting is unprecedented. So there is that. I don't agree with the way that Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Missouri, I don't like the way that they've gone about doing it. They've completely and totally cut out the voices of the people. Whereas in California and now in Virginia, we have allowed the people to decide on A, whether they want to fight back against this, and B, whether they want to have these new maps that favor Democrats. And I think it is extremely important to get the consent of the governed. I mean, that's what the writing of the Constitution was all about. So I think the way that we've gone about doing it in response to what all these other legislatures have gone ahead and done is the right way to go about it. Do I agree with it as a general concept? No, I don't agree with mid-year redistricting, but doing it in response to the blatant attempted power grab by the GOP, I think is the right way to go about it.
And do you mind sharing just a little bit more about the demographic of your district? Like, what does Virginia's 1st District look like? Is it predominantly white, predominantly Black? Is it a mix? Is it high income, low income? What does that district currently look like?
Currently, it is predominantly white. I think the split is somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% white to 30% people of color. And it is, I would say, somewhere lower on the socioeconomic status, particularly with the eastern counties on the Northern Neck, the Middle Peninsula. There is a lot of poverty in this district as it exists today. It is a large district. It is, I forget exactly the amount of miles that it covers, but it spans 814,000 people. And it's large. It's really big, and it's really spread out. We're currently like almost in the middle of the district as it exists today, and it's just massive. It's absolutely enormous. And we have some pockets that are wealthier, but for the most part, there is a lot of folks within the district that are lower on the socioeconomic level.
So I'm on your website right now. Thank you for having a website, because not too many candidates have websites, and people need to know, what the policies that people are running on are. So I'm going to list off your policies for the people who aren't aware. We have abolishing ICE, campaign finance reform, particularly ending Citizens United, codifying a woman's right to choose, ending Dobbs, codifying marriage equality, legislating Oberfeld, eliminating the income gap on Social Security tax, establishing a comprehensive universal healthcare system, expanding voter rights, filing or co-signing articles of impeachment for Donald Trump on day one, filing or co-signing articles of impeachment for federal officials who have violated the law and or abused their authority, improving accessibility to government services by reducing red tape, prioritizing clean energy initiatives, including solar and wind energy, protecting and expanding LGBTQ plus rights, raising the minimum wage to $30 an hour, release the full unredacted e-files, removing Mary Jane from the federal schedule, and with it creating a new source of revenue to offset the national debt, revising calculation method for determining the federal poverty line to account for rising costs, supporting Palestinian statehood, supporting and expanding access for veterans to VA healthcare benefits and services, tax the rich, undoing the big ugly bill, and unmasking ICE and criminalizing fascist tactics. Of your policies on your website, which ones are the top three you would say are important for your district?
So that we ask that question so often because some folks, of course, healthcare is a huge issue. Like, we have a hospital in this district that has been labeled one of the hospitals that's likely to close because of the big ugly bill. I'm absolutely never gonna call it by its name. So healthcare is huge. Me personally, as a healthcare attorney, that's a big deal to me. People in this district, far and wide, they want to see impeachment happen. So, I mean, day one, people make a joke about me all the time. They're like, oh, you're going to put your stuff down and then you're going to file articles of impeachment. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Because it is important. We need accountability from what has happened over the last year. So accountability in the form of impeachment, first and foremost. Following that, universal health care, and also abolishing ICE.
Yes, articles of impeachment definitely seems to be a top priority for a good handful of Democrats. I would say mainly progressive ones. As we've seen, the more establishment candidates are kind of, iffy about whether or not they want to file articles of impeachment. So to hear that would be one of your top priorities entering into Congress, I think a lot of people care about that. As we have seen, the actions of the president have been very questionable, specifically with his actions towards Iran. So definitely appreciate just hearing that is a concern for you as well. I do want to talk a little bit more about VA and veterans, since you are a caretaker for a disabled vet. Share a little bit more about that and what policies you would like to see or implement should you become a congresswoman.
Absolutely. So I'll give a little bit about my personal experience as a caregiver. So my husband was in combat in Afghanistan, and fortunately he got out of combat. But while he was home on leave, he was injured in a car accident that changed his life forever. And we have been so lucky that the VA has been providing the care that he needs. However, there are so many hoops that veterans have to jump through in order to get the care that they need, that they were promised all of these benefits when they signed up to join the military. And it is really astonishing to see how much effort it takes getting through the application process for benefits. We've been there, we've been through it. I have a law degree and a license to practice law, and I can't figure it out. It is so unbelievably difficult for veterans to access this system. And it is designed for a failure on the part of veterans. They deny, and then they make you work for it to go through the appeals process and fight for yourself. And it is just unreal how hard this process is. So, number one, I want to see the cuts that have been made to jobs at the VA. I want to see that reversed. Veterans need to have, yes, in the comments, I agree, veterans should have full and fair access to health care, to compensation, to benefits. 100% agree. We need to have people serving in jobs within the VA system to ensure that veterans can get to the services that they need to get to, and that we don't have a lot of these positions. It's creating so many of these blocks between veterans and the providers that they need to see. And it's just a travesty. So we need to fund and reposition the VA to be able to provide care across all of its hospitals. I mean, one of the positions that we see that is most understaffed is clinical psychology. And thinking about veterans with PTSD and anxiety, that is not one area that we need to have a lack of assistance. I mean, 95% of VAs across the country are lacking in that position. And it's atrocious. And they want to cut more positions. I am afraid that they want to have an unaliving by 1,000 cuts, if you will, so that they can privatize it. And it's entirely disrespectful to the military and to the veteran community.
I agree. Especially those who fought in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. I feel they're kind of replicating what we saw with Vietnam. Instead of the physical ailments, they're having more of the psychological elements, like you said, PTSD, lots of trauma, and there's no system to really support them through it, and they either have to get support through their family and friends, which depending on how they come back from the war zone, they may not have that support system, and then they end up on the streets. It just becomes this negative feedback loop of detrimental, decreasing mental health. So right. I hope that Congress, anybody can pass better funding for the VA so that we can get those clinical psychologists, that people can get seen. But I also feel like there is a little bit of a stigma surrounding mental health in the military, but also with men as well. As we've seen, there's trends going up with the self-unalivement of men in violent manners, whether that's through using their vehicle or, drinking themselves to unalivement, or using a pew-pew to take their life. What would you do to help respond to that portion of the mental health stigma?
Number one, I think we need to have education surrounding it. I really do believe that knowledge is power. And if VA and associated organizations, not necessarily even the VA, but even organizations that help with the VA, like DAV, which is Disabled Veterans of Virginia, they have a larger coalition. That is just one organization that I know that helps us. Or VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. If we had some kind of like coalition where we can have education surrounding mental health and the impacts that it has upon people, particularly who have fought in combat, we know the statistic is 22 veterans a day who unalive by self-unaliving. And so if we can address that with people and show that there are safe spaces to allow them to heal rather than to continue, my husband says this all the time, what they did in the military was they just shove it all down because they got to keep going. They got to keep going. We need to talk about it. We need to get it out in the open because it's never going to go away.
Yeah. Mental health will always be around us. And if this war in Iran continues on the path that it's going to continue on, we may see boots on the ground, and we may have to deal with a new generation of, veterans who are coming back with PTSD, all sorts of trauma or just pain or experiences that they're going to face being in the combat zone. I want to touch a little bit about the Democratic primary, specifically in Virginia. There are, at least from what I've seen, 6 or so candidates who are also on the ticket with you. So if I was a voter in Virginia, which I'm not in Virginia, I'm in Minnesota, but what makes you stand out compared to the other Democrats who are on the ticket?
Yeah, slight correction. I think there are 8 of us presently, which, of course, if we redistrict, that's going to disperse. People are going to go into different districts, some of which have already let their intentions be known. But nevertheless, even if there were 8 of us, I can tell you that I'm the only one of those 8 people that is advocating for filing articles of impeachment. I will put action behind my words. There are some people that are talking about accountability, but they do not have anything to back it up with. I am the only candidate who is actively talking about not just filing articles of impeachment against Donald Trump, but also against Pete Hegseth, against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., against members of this administration for actual impeachable offenses, and also forcing a floor vote on these articles under House Rule 9. Nobody in this race is talking about this. Nobody has any kind of action that they have brought forward that shows that they are serious about getting the accountability that we all need and frankly deserve.
As a progressive candidate, how do you plan on working with not only the more moderate Democrats, but also the Republicans on the other side of the aisle? Because as we've seen a lot lately, we have Democrats who talk the talk, but when it comes down to walking the walk and actually voting on legislation to benefit the American people, they kind of sort of fold and cave, as we saw with the passing of the Senate DHS funding bill. It passed the House, and there were some House Democrats who signed on and supported. So what would be your course of action to push progressive policies while working with moderate Democrats and also Republicans?
I love this question because even though it's just me here, it's just you and I up here talking. I'm not alone. I'm endorsed by Citizens Impeachment. We are a coalition of over 150 candidates nationwide, most running for U.S. House and U.S. Senate. So there is going to be a coalition of progressive candidates going into the next Congress, of which I hope to be one. And so together we are going to put forward these people first policies. But even if it's a policy that we don't put forward, what I am concerned with first and foremost are the people. So if it's a policy that is pro people, regardless of if it comes from a moderate Democrat or a Republican, if it is beneficial to the people and we can see how and see the effects of how it will benefit the people, I will work to get it across the finish line. If it's something that is detrimental to the people, I don't care who puts it forward. I'm not putting my name on it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and like I said earlier, a lot of Democrats have kind of just, caved and folded. And there have been some votes where I've been like, why would you do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you claim to be anti-Trump, claim to be against the things that the Republicans are doing, but then you vote alongside them for whatever reason they may be. So in your district, the current incumbent is a Republican. You did mention him just a little bit briefly. What are some things that he has done that have caused you to kind of be like, yeah, I need to throw my hat into this race?
Whew, how much time you got? Let's talk. So Rob Whitman has been in Congress since 2007. Prior to that, he was in the Virginia legislature for a year. But while he's been in Congress, he really has had a lackluster record. He's not had that many pieces of legislation become law. He is just there to be there. And we know that he is there to benefit his own stock portfolio. We have seen that when he went into Congress, he had somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 in his net worth. And now that number is over $5 million. So it's just really, he's been there to collect a paycheck and to trade stocks. But he's not done anything that benefits a large swath of the district. There have been little things here and there, like he's done some good work for the Chesapeake Bay. Outside of that, his policies don't have a broad impact for the majority of people in this district. So that was kind of at the outset. And then once Trump got into office, this man has been lying to us and gaslighting us every day, just about. He doesn't respond substantively to emails. He doesn't respond at all to phone calls. He doesn't make time for his constituents at either his DC or his Glen Allen offices. He has shut down other offices of his.
Oh, wow.
And then we got to the spring and summer of last year. And I was thinking about entering the race at this point, not certain about it, but I saw that he supported the big ugly bill. And I saw that that was going to take up nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid, a program he himself benefited from as a child. So he's pulling up the ladder from everyone else. And then he started lying to us about it and what it would do, not just to the people, but to hospitals nationwide. And that vote of his in favor of that bill, that was the last straw. That was when I said, I have got to do something because this man isn't it.
Mm-hmm. And he's currently, as it stands, running unopposed in the primary. And there's probably a plethora of factors that go into why he's running unopposed. It may be because they feel like he's a stronger candidate, or it may be because he's probably the only pro-Trump Republican in that district who is willing to run. I don't know too much about the economic impacts that Virginians are feeling right now, but speaking to your constituents, what are their top issues that you would say are facing them or griping them the most?
Healthcare is a big one. Mainly, first and foremost, is affordability. We hear that over and over and over again. Housing affordability, just living, having to pay your electric bill. It's horrific. People are really feeling it. I mean, Virginia is the data center capital of the world. And so our electric bills are constantly raising. People are seeing them go up. And not only that, we're seeing more data centers pop up in different locations, or at least try to pop up in different locations. People are already having trouble with paying for people have at this point gotten rid of their health insurance because it was more than their mortgage. They are having to ration medication. Things are really tight here. Virginia is also home to a lot of federal workers who have been doged. And so, of course, they're feeling the effects of it, all of these policies as well. So really being able to afford to live in Virginia is a huge problem. And then being able to afford the basic necessities of life on top of that is an issue in and of itself.
Yeah, affordability is definitely a huge problem in this country. I know that's something that Abigail Spanberger ran on, and uh, lots of political analysts say that's part of the reason why she did win. Um, Speaking on the data centers, I know you live in Northern Virginia, or that is where your district is primarily housed. Have you seen or witnessed firsthand the impact of data centers in that region? And if so, what does that look like?
So I don't live in Northern Virginia. I live in Central Virginia. Northern Virginia is about 2 hours away from me. So I cannot say that I've personally seen the effects of those data centers on me, but I do know that there is a data center that is trying to be built a couple of miles from my house. And we, my campaign manager, who is my older sister, and I went to a meeting that the developer was holding at a nearby elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all of these pretty little charts that they were trying to explain to the people. Oh, no, this is so good for the economy. This is this is that. But when asked questions about things that were referenced on their charts, they had no answers. They could not tell us what chemicals they were going to use to treat the water that they have that cools all of their systems. They could not tell us basic information. It's going to take 10 years for this development to get completely up and running. And by the time that happens, the developer themselves won't even be a part of the equation. And yet they have to enter into a long-term contract with the most major energy provider here in Virginia, which is Dominion Energy. So they say they won't raise energy bills, but at the same time, they can't control what another company does. So it's absolutely meaningless. And there would be direct impacts to my property value. We would, I'm sure, hear the noise. There's going to be construction happening for a decade. And it's just unreal. The idea that we already have the most data centers in the entire world and they still want to build more is insane to me. So while I haven't yet felt the effects, I know that they're right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing everything that we can to stop this facility from being built.
It's that, I don't know whether that's sad or disappointing that they could not answer your questions regarding like the economic impacts, the environmental impacts regarding building this data center. And I've heard stories about already the water pollution that's occurring in areas that do have these data centers being built or have already been built. And so I think your voice is very important in that. And I feel like if you do make it to the federal level, you can have a greater impact on, advocating for better policy around building these data centers. Because I did speak with Tabitha Ziegler. She is running in Indiana's 8th district, and she's mentioned that she lives in farm country, farmland, and they're trying to build data centers over there. And the impact that's going to have on farmers, their ability to produce products and things like that. It just seems like we are becoming a data center country versus, a multifaceted, multi-prosperous country. On your website, you state that you are supporting Palestinian statehood. A few questions I have about that. Number one, obviously the big question would be, are you taking any AIPAC money? Would you ever take AIPAC money? Would you ever take any corporate money? What or how would you primarily finance your campaign?
We are a grassroots funded campaign. To date, I have only ever taken one PAC contribution, and it was from a nonprofit organization of which I've been a member for the last 3 years called the Virginia Association of Defense Attorneys. I believe in full transparency, and that is why I don't want to get into taking these corporate dollars or AIPAC dollars or money from sources that I would never on my own support. My campaign is almost exclusively, save for that one PAC contribution, almost exclusively grassroots funded. We will never We have never in the past. We do not now. We will not in the future take APAC money. I don't take lobbyist money, no corporate money. I don't even take money from billionaires. Like, I want to tax the rich, not profit from them. So we're trying to do right by the people.
Amen. Amen. Um, Supporting Palestinian statehood has been a conversation for a pretty long time, but primarily we've seen it happen or grow a lot in the last 3 years since the war in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
How would you go about proposing Palestinian statehood at the federal level, knowing how entrenched the United States is with the blue country? And we have to be careful about how we speak about this topic on this app.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yes, I will do my best to speak in very algo speak terms because I hear you. And what I want to say about that is that that country is engaging in G-side. Like, I think first we need to put it out there. We need to call it what it is. And the fact that some of our representatives can't say that, in either algo speak terms or in plain English terms, I think that's a huge problem. So getting people into Congress that, see with their eyes and talk with their mouths about what's happening in real terms, that's important. I think the more that we talk about it, the more that we have open conversation about it, the more that we show that we don't have to be a nation who is entrenched on the side of the oppressor. The more that we have those conversations, the sooner things can start to change. And so I want to be a part of at least bringing it up because some of the people that we have in Congress right now, they can't even do that.
yeah. And House Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries has been very vocal about his support for the blue country. And there was a candidate, Vance Bostic, who was
I love
running
him.
to take Hakeem's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Vance did not get enough signatures to be on the ballot in June.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that someone in that district, because there were still other candidates that I saw last I checked Ballotpedia who are running against Jeffries in the primary. So I'm hoping something comes out of that. But that is really unfortunate that New York's 8th district could be stuck with this man for another 2 years. And Hakeem did challenge a lot of those signatures, which, sir, if you think you have this election in the bag, no signature should be a threat. But
yeah,
I digress.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to say too that we need to have somebody else's speaker. Like, point blank, end of story. I don't think he is the person to lead us out of what this regime has put us into.
100%. Yeah, his actions, his words, he has kind of proven that he's not up to the task of, being the stronghold for the Democratic Party. Just a quick shout out. Thank you, Queen, for the $15. Said your TikTok big sister is proud of you. Keep it up. Thank you, sis. I love you. I'm tracking the package, girl. So it's supposed to be coming sometime in the next few days. So really excited about that. Also, for anyone who is joining the live, you are more than welcome to request up and speak to Ericka yourself. If you don't feel comfortable being in the box, you can leave your question down in the comment and I will make sure to read it out loud for everyone to see. Let's see. There is a lot of stuff on your website as far as your priorities. So I'm like,
yes.
And they're all good. So I'm just like, which one do we find the most important? Improving accessibility to government services by reducing red tape. The one big beautiful, I guess I gotta call it the formal name, but the one big beautiful bill did add more red tape to those accessing government services such as SNAP. I know they increased the number of hours that you must work a month in order to qualify. They've also changed the rules about dependents. And so what processes would you take to ensure that people are getting the services that they need, but also address, because there has been, some cases of fraud, abuse, waste from those using government services. So how would you tackle that issue of making sure the red tape doesn't allow everyone to just come through, but also making sure that people get the services that they need and rightfully deserve?
So I personally don't think that there was any good that was done by that bill. As it relates to different healthcare programs, first and foremost, it just, I could go on about this for days. So I think we need to undo what was done by that bill. I also think we need to fully fund programs like SNAP, programs like Medicaid. And when it comes to fraud, particularly on the healthcare side of things, on the Medicare, Medicaid side of things, most often we see corporations, private health insurers who are committing that fraud. United Healthcare is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier last year, they were under both civil and criminal investigation for Medicare fraud. So I personally, I don't like health insurances, private health insurances being involved in our healthcare system. I think it's terrible for the quality of care that we get. I think it's terrible for patients getting what they need because there is a middleman in between the patient and their care. It's something that is a hassle both to the patient as well as to the provider, and it creates so much extra work on both sides of it. So there is that. Beyond that, I think we need to do some type of study to look at what and whether there is actually fraud or waste or abuse of these systems and find out where it's actually coming from. Because when we have an organization, I'm not going to call it an agency because I'm not even sure that it was one, but when we have an organization, a collective of people like Doge who come in and just chop everything to pieces without knowing what it is or what it does, I think that creates more of a problem than it does a benefit. And it's going to take so much more time, energy, money to get things to where we need them to be and where we want them to be to support the people that they were intended to support.
Yeah. I know in Minnesota specifically, our attorney general was investigating Medicaid fraud and had found majority of the cases of Medicaid fraud were coming from service providers. Mm-hmm. However, that is not how the Trump administration is labeling the fraud as being put. He's claiming it's Somali fraud and all the other things that are happening. And so
it's just a way to promote racism.
Exactly. And so I'm hoping that through, better legislators and through better legislation, we can have, more attorneys, more lawyers look into the specific fraud and abuse. Like you said, do a study and see exactly where, the waste, fraud, and abuse is coming from. Because I highly doubt the people who are struggling to get these services in the first place are able to be, blue or white collar masterminds and commit, these crimes. Blondie, you are more than welcome to come up. The panel is open to anyone to talk to Ericka. If you don't feel comfortable requesting up, you are more than welcome to leave your comments or your questions in the comments. Blondie, you did just tune in, so I'm going to give you a quick little recap. Ericka Kopp is running for Congress in Virginia's 1st Congressional District, but there's a little asterisk next to it because with the redistricting map, there's a chance that she may no longer be in the 1st District, but as it still stands, she is in the 1st District. So what questions do you have for Ericka?
What is your most highest priority platform? Whatever.
So that was so something that no worries. I think that the way that we need to attack future Congresses, particularly this next one, I think we need to impeach and improve. So at baseline, impeachment's going to come first for me. So getting that accountability, getting the bad actors out of our government, and then having a government where we can actually create what we want to see in our society. So while it's not necessarily like my biggest, I want this so much for everyone, because that would be universal healthcare. I think as far as strategy is concerned, it has to go a certain way. And I think impeachment has to come first.
Sick. I love that. How do you feel about court reform, specifically SCOTUS?
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's talk about it. I'm an attorney. I think.
Ooh, nice. My mother is too.
Oh, great. What state does she practice in?
Maryland. She is mostly corporate law, and she does a little bit of bankruptcy.
That's awesome. Bankruptcy is something that terrifies me.
I've had to leave it because it's depressing.
Man, bad memories. No, but I think we need to have one justice for each appellate district. Right now, we have 9 SCOTUS justices. We have 11 judicial districts. I think we should have one for each. So that's number one. Number two, I think we need to absolutely get rid of the shadow docket. We have seen that it has undermined the well-reasoned, well-thought-out decisions from lower courts with nothing but an unsigned paragraph. It has been used to completely disrupt the way that we have legal decisions in this country, and it's not the way it should be. So beyond that, impeachment can also apply to Supreme Court justices. There's precedent for that. So yes. I think we need to look at the justices who have undermined democracy, like the ones who have been taking kickbacks. Not going to name names, John Roberts. The ones who are in the e-files. Not going to name names, Clarence Thomas. Mm-hmm. The ones who just don't, they don't want to promote an actual democracy. Not going to name names, Samuel Alito. But I think there's something to be said about the far right 6 on the Supreme Court bench.
Absolutely. And I heard a proposal from Jamel Bowie, the opinion writer from New York Times. Love him. He's my favorite journalist. He was suggesting that they need to that justices don't get to appoint their own clerks. That you are given clerks, and you are even more beholden to Congress. That you don't get to keep your fancy big court. You go to the original spot in the basement of Congress.
Mm-hmm. That's a new one. I haven't heard that. I'm gonna have to look into that more. Let me make myself a little note.
I just followed you, and I can share his post with you.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I also think we need term limits. Like, the original purpose for the lifetime appointment of federal judges was to keep them insulated from politics. That's clearly not worked out. So what is the point of them being up there for life if the whole reason that they were up there for life is gone? I think we can do that.
Exactly. Damn. And I'm sorry, what district are you running for again?
So currently it is Virginia's 1st, which is occupied by Rob Whitman. But with the redistricting in Virginia, we don't really know what's going to happen with that. So if the courts decide that redistricting will move forward, then we will release a press release with the district that we choose.
Okay, cool. I also think it's important to note, to share that just because Louisiana has paused their Senate primaries, their state primaries are still have not been paused. You can still vote.
Interesting. I did not. Yeah. I knew that they were pausing the primaries. I did not know that the state primaries were still going to be.
Yep. Happening. States get to decide their own elections. That's how it's always been. That's how it always will be. So there are state elections still happening in Louisiana. If you're in Louisiana, you can vote.
And please do.
Yes, please go vote.
What is the most important issue that you're hearing from people on the ground in the district that you're running for?
There are 2 really big ones. One of them is healthcare. The other is affordability. Just kind of generally, that includes housing affordability, that includes healthcare affordability, of course, that includes the price of gas, prices of groceries. There are people who are just barely getting by in this district. There are people who have had to let their health insurance go because it's gotten to the point where it's more expensive than their mortgage. So we really need to address all of these costs. We need to repeal the unconstitutional tariffs that this president has put on so many of the goods and services that we need. We need to stop the removals of people who have come from other countries that are absolutely vital to the agricultural industry. And we need to do everything that we can to stop the war in Iran.
Nice. I dig it. Oh shoot, I had a question, but I just forgot it. Holy snap.
No worries, you're following me now. If it comes back to you later, you could always feel free to DM me.
Oh, I won't be shy. Don't worry.
Good.
Goodness. Oh, by the way, Jamel Bowie, the journalist I referenced, he's in Virginia as well.
Really?
Yeah. He's a constitutional historian.
Okay. Yeah, I've got his name circled on my little notepad over here. Definitely going to look into him after
Fabulous.
this. Yeah.
I'm not so sure what else I have to offer right now. I'm kind of lost my train of thought.
All good. When your train comes back to the station, let us know.
You
can stay up here, Blondie.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
I can stay up here for like 10, 15 more minutes, and then I have to go because Mama's busy.
Sounds good. There's so many good things on your, like, I'm just like, I honestly, if I had the time, I would talk about all of them.
Yeah.
But
I would love to.
So that just means you have to come back for another round.
No worries.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Who is your opponent?
So the incumbent would be my opponent should I win the primary. In the primary right now, we have 7 other folks. And that's, of course, subject to change with redistricting. But as of right now, there are 7 other people that would be my opponents in the primary. That includes a fellow named Salam Bhatti. There is Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, Tim Sawinski, Louis Littlepage, Shannon Taylor, Mel Tull, and there's one other
People
person.
Who just don't matter. How do you feel about your chances against them? Do you? Well, that's a kind of a weird question. That's not an important question, but do you feel that you could body them?
I think if we were to go head to head with our policies, our platforms, our backgrounds, and all of that, I think I could. Yeah.
Sick. And I guess to address a comment, what are some of your policies about the LGBTQIA plus community?
I am a member myself. I am the only person.
Me too. We gave it away.
Yay! Love it. I am the only person in my race, in my current district, who is an out and proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. I identify as bisexual, and I am heavily, 10 toes down heavily in support of the LGBTQ plus community.
Fantastic.
Touching a little more about the LGBTQ plus community. As we've seen, the Trump administration has kind of signed executive orders limiting access to gender-informed care for minors. In some states, like Kansas, you can't even use the marker that you choose to identify with on your driver's license. Other states, Indiana's kind of thinking about it. Ohio. What would you do on the federal level to kind of protect or keep the rights of specifically trans people at the forefront? Because Democrats, as we've seen, have been kind of, iffy about talking about it, but also not refusing, but I guess hesitant in putting policy forward to protect the trans community.
I think first and foremost, and this might take a little time to do, but I'm in it for the long haul if I can get in there and get in this fight. I want to see a constitutional amendment at the federal level that protects people of all genders, sexes, all of it, races, everything, because the attacks that we're seeing, it is very much that poem of, and then they came for, and then they came for, and then there was no one left to fight for me. If we allow this regime to exclude and scapegoat members of this community or any other, and in particular the trans community, it is just a matter of time before they get to anyone and everyone else. And I have nothing but love and respect, such deep respect for people of this community, and in particular, people of the trans community. And they don't deserve this. So having a federal constitutional amendment to protect these people, and all people, frankly, it's going to be a baseline level of protection across all states, which is why I think we need to do it by federal constitutional amendment rather than anything else. It would be setting a floor so that states themselves cannot go below that floor level of protection. States can give greater protection, but they cannot have any law on the books that would denigrate the protection given by the federal Constitution. So that's what I want to do to protect people.
That's awesome. And I do have another question that I just thought of. How do you communicate to constituents, and specifically to cynical constituents, that compromises sometimes have to be made? How do you communicate that to them in a way that makes them feel like, okay, sometimes you have to take a step back to take 3 steps forward?
That's a really tough question. And I don't know that I've had to communicate it with anyone yet. But what I will say is that we can find common ground across political ideologies. We can find common ground on just about anything. So I think if we start at that common ground level of understanding of, hey, we're not that different, even if we believe in a different political ideology, we have these similarities. And also, at the end of the day, we're all people. And so having that, being able to agree on something, starting from a place of unity, and then being able to talk about the decisions that have been made. If there was a decision on a compromise that might take a couple of steps back, talking about why and talking about how we can go forward from that. I think that is how we address it.
I think you're right.
Awesome. I know you shared that you are a healthcare attorney. Talk a little bit more about your background experience being a healthcare attorney, and just some of the things that you have seen or witnessed having dealt with the healthcare system, and just the different cases that come up being a healthcare attorney.
I think a lot of the cases that we see, whether they be medical malpractice lawsuits, whether they be actions against a practitioner's license, I think a lot of it comes from the exorbitant cost of care and limitations in the level of education that people receive about their healthcare. So I think that's one thing. If we were to have a system of universal healthcare that eliminates the need for all of these extremely high costs of healthcare, I think we would see a lot less in the way of actions either in court or in the administrative agencies against the providers' licenses. So in my practice, I work for or on the side of the providers, whether it be doctors, nurses, physical therapists, and also their malpractice insurers. So I do not work on the patient side of things, but I've seen so much on this side. And we really do see a lot. And a lot is people are people are upset at the cost of care. And I get it. It's expensive. I've looked at bills for a very prominent research hospital here in Central Virginia, it costs $10,000 to get a CT scan. It costs $60 to get a Tylenol. Like, what?
Shut up. Oh my God. What?
Seriously.
That's crazy.
That is
Seriously.
outrageous.
Yeah. Like, I balked seeing that on a bill because, I'm sorry, you can get a bottle this big at Costco for $15. And you're telling me that in the hospital, they charge $60 for one? What? It makes absolutely no sense.
Well,
So the cost of care is just exorbitant.
well, as we know, the Tylenol causes
That's a really good impression. Oh my
I
gosh.
thought you were glitching out at first. I was like, wait a minute.
Thank you. Yeah, well, he's glitching out.
All the time. All the time.
Lord, oh my goodness.
That was really well done.
Thank you. But I'll take this opportunity to leave on a good note, to leave on a laugh. Thank you so much for having me up. And Ericka, best of luck. I think you sound like a badass, and you sound really, really
Thank
smart
you.
and super qualified for it.
Thank you so
Kelsey,
much.
thank you so much for having up. I love your live so much.
Thank you.
This is great work. And I'll do whatever I can to support both of you. Thank you so much for having me up.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Monty.
you.
Can you drop me because that's better for the algorithm?
Yes, I got it.
Thank you so much.
I did want to address a question I saw in the chat a little while ago. Somebody, Grant Cholar, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. How would you feel about taxing churches? I think we should have an income or profit margin if you make a certain amount of money in relation to this limit, let's say. Beyond that, they should be taxed. So small churches or churches that are, actually doing the work, feeding the poor, all of those things. I don't necessarily think that those should be taxed, but mega churches, bring it on.
Yeah. And I say that as a Christian. Some of these churches make way too much money to not be.
Yep. Raised Catholic. I hear you.
So, for sure. Quick shout out. Thank you, Block Daddy, for the $10. Said heart hands. Thank you so much. People do want to talk a little bit about disability. We do have someone in the chat who has a disability. I know your partner is a disabled vet. And so what kind of reforms would you like to see done for the disability community at the federal level, as again with cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, the VA, and government services as a whole, impacting the disabled community? What reforms would you like to see brought to the forefront?
So there are some really arbitrary limits placed on the people with disabilities, placed on that community as to their receiving income from the government. So there is a $2,000 limit of assets and income that you can have. So like you can't have more than $2,000 in the bank if you're receiving a certain type of income as a person with a disability. And it is so atrocious because on top of that, if a person with a disability marries, there is also a limit on the amount of income that that couple can have. And with a couple, it's $3,000. So, I mean, there's no ability to have an emergency fund. There is no ability to be able to save up for anything like, God forbid, a down payment on a home. It really puts people who rely on this source of income as all that they have, it puts them almost in a second-class position because they not only don't have certain amounts of money, but they can't have certain amounts of money. I don't think we should be putting our feet on the necks of anyone, let alone people who have disabilities. It's ableist, and I'm sure that it was by design, But I think we need to scrap that and really put forward policies that are designed with having the people front and center, first and foremost in the equation. It's just absolutely horrific. And when people hear it, I'm seeing in the chat, they're like, I can't believe it when I learned about that part. Yeah, same. It's honestly, it's disgusting.
I've always known.
Hey, Hillary.
Yeah. Also, the fact that now this administration wants to tax your disability income, which is hardly enough to do anything with.
Yeah.
When you're like disabled vets, they get their VA payments, which are
Tax-free.
tax free.
Mm-hmm.
The Social Security was tax free. Now they're going to be taxed. That's going to take away from a lot, especially within my household, because everybody in my household is disabled, and I own my home. Unfortunately, I'm not in Virginia, but like if you have one little expense with your home, especially like for me right now and during this economy, it blows your budget way out.
Yeah.
You have no budget. You're gonna pick and choose where you spend your money. And so and then there's the new disability shenanigans with this administration, which is the adult children who need full-time support living with relatives, and they're wanting to take if they have SNAP or the relative has SNAP, they want to take that away. And then there's disabled people that don't have SNAP or can't, they make too much for SNAP, but they're barely surviving anyway. There's a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles, and a lot of ableism that goes on that I don't think a lot of people realize. Like I moved in my house, and I wasn't too I was kind of in a remission state when I moved into my home, right? And now my mobility is just completely extremely limited. But I have an HOA.
Mm,
And no matter
me
what,
too.
when it comes to HOAs and disabilities, they do not care.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just have a new HOA company, and I let them know, look, we are all disabled. The adults are more physical, the older adults like myself, John, and my husband Jason, we can't do a lot in the yard. I can't be in the sun that much because of I have SLE. So, I tried, my son tries to help out, but he's autistic and has ADHD. So, oh, look, a squirrel. So I'm trying to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And then they want their yearly, they want their at the first of the year, they want their dues, which is really the worst time to want HOA dues. And so, these things will hamper the disability community. And it's like the more that the more the obstacles I run into, the more I'm frustrated for all of us as disabled people.
Yeah.
And because did we ask to be disabled? No. Did disabled children ask to be here? No. But they're here, and we are also citizens.
Mhm.
So, but they act like we don't have a say in our life at all once you become disabled. So that's the reason why I try to remind people you can have a disabling event at any moment, and then you'll be in my shoes. And then what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I mean, my husband's accident occurred when he was 19. So up until that point, he was able. And then after that, he was in a coma. He was in a wheelchair. He had to relearn how to walk. He couldn't eat for months. So yeah, I completely agree. And the way that this nation looks at and frankly looks down upon people with disabilities, it is unconscionable.
What do you think about the possible removal of RFK Jr.?
I'm absolutely for it. I think he lied to the Senate in his confirmation hearing about not changing vaccine requirements. I think he is actively destroying the nation's ability to be prepared for future diseases and big diseases. I think he is mishandling a lot as it relates to the measles outbreak in Texas, and that has spread to other states as well. And not only that, I think he is compromised because he still receives basically kickbacks, referral fees, if you will. As a lawyer, he gets a certain percentage, a certain amount of money when he has cases that are referred in a certain type of way. And when he was in practice, he practiced vaccine injury cases. So, like, I think it's really a conflict of interest that he is even in charge of Health and Human Services in the first place. I don't think he should have been confirmed. And I wrote to my senators, don't you dare do this. I think we need to have more conversation surrounding what it is that he is and has done, and more importantly, has not done. And I think he needs to be impeached and removed.
I absolutely agree. Um, and this is just a general pop in my head question. Going forward, do you feel like it would be possible to make sure that people actually, like, if you're the head of Health and Human Services, or the Secretary of Health, have like some kind of actual medical background?
I think there is the ability for Congress to condition certain positions, particularly one like that, where there is an obvious need for somebody with, health experience, and baseline, at least somebody who was not an admitted IV drug user for more than a decade, somebody who is not a health conspiracy theorist.
Actually, he's also a practicing eugenicist.
That too. That too.
And he surrounds himself with them, and that's disturbing, especially for marginalized disabled groups.
Yeah, 100%.
And what do you think about his general attack upon depression and ADHD meds for Black children?
I think this goes back to your prior point about him being a eugenicist. I think he wouldn't know left from right if he couldn't do this. I don't think he knows anything about anything. He is also somebody who pushed the conspiracy about Tylenol being bad for pregnant women. I think he is absolutely Looney Tunes, and I wouldn't trust health advice. I put it this way: I would trust health advice from Dr. Pepper before I would receive and take health advice from him.
Period. That's definitely true. Definitely. Yeah, I
is the epitome of a quack.
Yeah, very much. Like, and he's not even real. He can't even compare to a snake oil salesman, because a snake oil salesman will actually make sales.
Right.
But my chief problem. Right.
Beloved Looney Tunes. I'm sorry, that was funny.
I know. I do. I do love Looney Tunes. Don't get me wrong. But his overall just disdain for autistic people is, that is very bothersome to me, and because, like, his ideas at first was like, put us all in a camp. Excuse me. A what? Excuse me, what? Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Calling it an epidemic. And what people do not, nor do they, a lot of people don't understand or acknowledge the fact that it's very genetic. It's just that the higher functioning autistic people in the world are having kids.
Right.
And before, you didn't know why, you didn't see a lot of autistic. Yeah, why? Because you institutionalized them. Mm-hmm. You hid them away with your ugly laws.
Yeah.
You sent them packing into execrable conditions just so that way everybody fit into America's nice, neat little box.
Yeah. And I think that's to say, on top of, if people were diagnosed to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the rhetoric that he has put forth about people with autism, about people in general, is just, it's disturbing and it's unacceptable. And the only thing that I think is epidemic in this regime is the amount of stupidity that's in it.
Period.
That part. Kind of keeping on theme of disability, universal health care, how do you talk to constituents specifically in your district about universal health care? There's kind of a stigma about universal health care, specifically who's going to pay for it and how is this going to impact my private insurance, and I don't want my premiums to go up like they did with Obamacare, that sort of rhetoric. So how do you communicate to your constituents the benefits of universal health care and why it's a better alternative to what they're dealing with now?
Fortunately, now we have a study that was done by Yale University, and they have looked at Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All and seen the economic impacts as well as the health outcomes. And what they found was that universal health care under Medicare for All would save I believe the number exactly was $450 billion of American money every year. And in addition to that, our health outcomes would be better, and maternal health and maternal mortality rates would be better than what they are now. Right now, our care is expensive for everyone, and our health outcomes are terrible compared to every other country that has universal health care. So we can save money with universal health care, number one. Number two, I understand that people like their health insurance, yes, but these private companies are companies that are literally profiting off of people's backs in their most vulnerable hour. And I don't want for people to have these predatory entities coming and getting their cut off of everyday people. There's that. And we can pay for universal health care. It's just a matter of if we have the will to do it. So what I tell people is that we can tax the rich. I would look for a progressive wealth tax on people with assets exceeding a certain amount of money, like $10 million, and then go up periodically in categories. So like $10 to $50 million, and then $50 to $100 million, etc. I also think that we can legalize MJ and have that money that is not already in the federal banking system enter into the economy. There could also be a tax on it so that we could have money coming into the federal government that isn't already there. And there's usually another prong that I discuss, and it's escaping me at this point. But I think with what the research shows that it would save money and how we can implement things to pay for it. Oh, we can close loops in the tax code so that billionaires and corporations aren't evading taxes. For the 2025 tax year, there were 88 corporations, profitable corporations that paid absolutely nothing in federal taxes. So if we were to tighten up those rules and increase the amount of IRS enforcement that we have to ensure that people are actually paying what they're supposed to pay, I think we can afford it.
Thank you. Karam, thank you for joining. I know you have a question for Ericka, so whenever you're ready, go ahead with your question.
Hey, first of all, thank you, Chelsea. And thank you, Erica, for taking out the time to even, join the panel and be able to answer all of our questions. I truly appreciate you and
Happy to.
everyone here. So I'm a physician. I'm not in Virginia, but I'm in Maryland, not too far from the border in the Bethesda area. So
Love it.
some of the clinicians that work for me, social workers and counselors, are licensed to practice in DC, Maryland, and Virginia as well.
Mhm.
I just had one quick question. Actually, I had a couple of the questions as well, but I do have to drop just because I have to take my son for a soccer class. So recently, I was advised that the Mental Health America had shown that Virginia just last year ranked 48th in the nation for youth mental health. The year prior to that, they were 32nd, and the year prior to that, they were 17th. So there's definitely been a significant decline with regards to that. And so I
And
just
this,
wanted to
I'm
kind of,
sorry, I want to clarify, this is
yeah,
2025 that this ranking came in?
yes, from Mental Health America.
Okay.
It was posted on Cardinal News, actually, showing that Mental Health America showed Virginia being 48th in the nation for youth mental health last year in 2025.
Okay.
Okay, so prior to that, so 2023, it was shown that it was 32nd and then 17th before. So we've seen a visible decline on that. And there was a case last year where in one of the schools, a kid was involved in a very bad accident and had to be air evac to a hospital, and it of course shook a lot of the other kids in the school as well. Even though they themselves didn't go through that, they required access to mental health care because of witnessing what their colleagues had gone through. So I just wanted to kind of know your thoughts on how you best would be able to deal with an issue like this. So that way, instead of that rate declining year over year, we can try to get back to how it was in the past.
I think this is going to be a combination of both a state and federal effort to improve the mental health of our youth here in the Commonwealth. I think it's going to take federal funding as well as state funding to have services like school counseling in every school and have it staffed so that when students need it, not if, but when students need it, they can have it. I think there are also other things that are kind of on the periphery that impact mental health, be it social media, be it access to healthcare services generally, access to having enough food at home. So I think we need to really hone in on what youth here in the Commonwealth are experiencing to get to the root causes of what is ailing their mental health, because unless we address those root causes, I mean, I don't need to explain this to you, and I certainly don't want to mansplain from my perspective on this, but if we don't address the root cause, and we're only touching upon the symptoms, it's just going to keep happening. So I think if we can address it both in a combination of federal funding, state funding, get kids the help that they need at the bottom line level, I think it's also going to help with, in a universal healthcare system, having access for everyone, and in particular kids, to mental health treatment, to therapy, to whatever they might need as far as their healthcare is concerned. I think that's going to be a huge help. And I think it's going to be a help to their parents as well, knowing that if a kid, falls and breaks their arm, that they won't have to declare bankruptcy for medical bills.
Yeah. Even being concerned about if it's worth calling an ambulance and then having to worry about the bill or going to the emergency room as well. I appreciate that response very well. I think what you're referring to is what we call social determinants of health. So really looking at the societal factors that impact our mental health. So even when we're conducting psychotherapy, we have to remember that a lot, because sending out, whether it's a kid or an adult, it doesn't matter. But when you're sending them back into the environment systemically that is causing or creating a lot of these issues, the difficult part of that as a clinician is we don't want to pathologize that. Because when we pathologize these things, then we're taking out the factor that these issues aren't created because of pathology, but they're actually created because of the systemic racism or because of just how the system works. So that's even as a physician, I truly believe if I'm not out there working for my patients, then what good am I really doing at the clinic, or in the hospital, if I'm not actively trying to also work on dismantling some of these systemic oppressions that we have, which is only going to continue to make our society worse. So thank you so much for that. The last thing I just wanted to ask really quickly, and what district are you in Virginia? Because I want to see if I can try to get some of my clinicians to help canvass for you if they can.
That would be a huge honor.
Yeah, if you would be open, with that discussion, I would really, really love to help out and getting you in contact with, a therapist or counselors who are in this field every day and be able to get their insight on what they think would be best for the community.
100%. Yes, please. If you want to connect with me and send me a DM, we can coordinate getting things organized here. I am currently in Virginia's 1st District, which is the Central Virginia area, and it spans out to the Northern Neck, out in those areas. However, if Virginia redistricts, that could change. But at baseline, I live in Central Virginia, so I'm in the Richmond area. And so if you would like to put me in contact with clinicians, physicians, therapists, whomever in the Central Virginia area, I would love to connect with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what that feedback is. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm actually from. I used to work in Woodbridge. This was like years ago in Centerra, in Northern
Hmm.
Virginia area.
Yep,
So
I'm
I
familiar.
think I will try my best to reach out to some of my colleagues in that area as well. I'm gonna see if I can get you in contact with some of the social workers specifically, because I think they have a lot more insight on this,
Great.
as well as some counselors as well. But thank you so much. I truly appreciate you, your responses, and I really wish you the best in your race. And
Thank you.
yeah, please feel free. I will definitely DM you, and please feel free to let me know whatever I can do as well on my end to help you in this.
Thank you. And thank you for your service to the community. Being a physician, especially these days, is hard work. And so I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea. I'm gonna drop down.
Thank you, Karam.
Love you.
Hey, Everett. I don't know if Everett knows he's up here, but you up here, Everett. Um, Everett did ask a question in the comments. Um, so let me go back to it if I can find it. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. How will you help re-encourage, institute, and protect DEIA?
This is a really good question. I think we need to have legislation that protects it. I don't think there's going to be a constitutional amendment for this, but I think this is something that we can address by legislation. First, and this is going to sound a little bit odd, but I'll explain. I think we need to define what it is because it is being used as a way of scapegoating and saying, oh, we can't have this, we can't have this. And really, it's just a way of perpetuating the racist white supremacist culture that we have lived in for since the beginning of America. So I think if we define what it is at the federal level in legislation and then use that legislation to protect those things, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm not as familiar with the A and DEIA. So if
The A
somebody could help me
is
out on that part.
accessibility.
Yeah,
Accessibility. Perfect. So if we can put forward a way of exemplifying how we protect those things in the federal government, access is part of my platform. And so I'm a little embarrassed that I didn't know that, but you learn something new every day. So really showing that we're committed to it at the federal level and being at the federal level, we have a little bit of an advantage. And what I mean by that is if states try to have laws in place that are out of sync with federal law, we have the supremacy clause of the Constitution at the federal level, meaning that if there's conflict between state law and federal law wins. So if we can do that, we can create a way for nationwide for there to be protection of DEIA policies throughout.
Can I ask a follow-up question, please?
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead, Everett.
So it seems like what we've seen with this administration and even the first administration is the complete and utter destruction of norms in our government. And we've seen systematic disassembling of the traditional order of things. And it seems like what we need now, I know you mentioned the possibility of impeachment of Supreme Court justices who, on one hand, with Chevron said, well, if it's not legislated, then we can't really enforce it because the agencies don't have that level of autonomy. And then on the other hand, they just defanged Article 2 of the Civil Rights Act, because, even though it was legislated. So my follow-up question is, with everything that needs to be codified with accessibility, civil rights protections, maybe even expanding that to things like sexual identity and orientation, or healthcare with ABs and with, I mean, how are you going to tackle just the sheer amount of things that are going to need to be codified? It seems like a lot.
It does. It does. I am not a stranger to, nor am I afraid of, hard work. And you're right, it is going to take a lot of time, energy, effort to codify all of the legislation that we need to protect us all from a regime that couldn't care less about the Constitution or civil rights. And it is going to take work. It is going to take effort. It is going to take alliances in Congress as well. And this is where I'm going to be leaning on the future Courage Caucus. Everett, I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I mentioned this, but I am a Courage candidate with Citizens Impeachment. We are over 150 candidates nationwide who are running for seats from U.S. House and Senate down to state and perhaps now local offices as well. So when we get into Congress, us Courage candidates, we will form the Courage Caucus. And together we will help get progressive policies across the finish line and sign into law. So I think we can all work collectively to tackle all of the many issues and many things that we need to put this society into one that we can be proud of to pass on to our kids and future generations. I think together we can do a lot. We can accomplish a lot. I do think impeachment needs to happen first because I don't think any of this would be signed into law by Donald Trump. So I do think there is a path forward. Will it take time? Will it take energy? Will it take effort? Absolutely. It's going to take political will. I have it. And I am not the only one that's got it and will do the work to get it done.
Thank you. I was not here earlier when you mentioned that, but I do find reassurance in your resolve and the fact that you are not alone and part of a larger group.
Thank you.
We do have about 20 more minutes. I wish we could continue this conversation. Honestly, I would.
Me too. It's been so fun.
Keep going and ride the train till the wheels fall off, you know?
Amen.
Is there a policy issue that we have not discussed that you would like to talk about in particular?
We've talked about so much.
I know.
Let's talk a little bit about immigration.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm the daughter of an immigrant parent, and I in respect to their privacy, because I know they would not want me to be talking about this on the internet, but I have been concerned about this parent ever since Donald Trump took office the second time, and we've lived with that fear of thinking, what happens if, and it's very real. My parent is from a country who has been on a travel ban before. My parent is a person of color, and it is terrifying to think, especially because they work in a redder area. It is very scary to think what could happen. Would anyone around them protect them in this case? And for all of these reasons, for all of this fear, for all of the illegalities that we've seen of ICE, I think it's got to go. I have signed on to the Abolish ICE pledge, and I'm very proud to be a signatory of that pledge. And in its place, I think we need to take all of the money that has been used to fund this criminal organization and fund not only immigration judges, But I also think that we need to create a realistic pathway to citizenship so that people who come to this country and want to contribute, want to be citizens, they can. And they can feel a sense of pride in knowing that they have done things the legal way, but also that we can actually offer them a legal way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a master's student in public administration, and I actually recently wrote a policy memorandum about immigration, specifically asylum, because my professor was like, this is too broad. You have to pick something out of it, something in immigration. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll pick asylum. Last I saw the numbers, we had 2.4 million pending cases for asylum, with an average wait time of 4 years between a decision. Obviously, the Trump administration keeps making changes to asylum rules, indicating that 40 countries are now paused from any immigration applications. So what would be your approach to specifically the asylum process? You hear a lot from MAGA and Trump supporters. We have too many asylees, or a lot of people are here in this country illegally. So again, what would be your approach to addressing the asylum case backlog? Because asylum does take up a large part of the immigration case or court system. The remaining cases are obviously visas, legal status, citizenship, things of that nature. So what would you do to address the bottleneck problem that we have with the influx of folks coming in for asylum, but the asylum process itself, not many are granted or given an asylum decision for years at a time?
So I think two things can be done kind of simultaneously to help address all of this. One thing, of course, is to fund it. If we have a fully funded and fully operational immigration system that can help process all of this backlog, I think we can get through it a little bit faster. Number two, I also think there needs to be greater education provided to people about their options, about how to do the things. And it can just be like a pamphlet that we have in different languages that gives them contact information to resources, for one thing. I think there have been a lot of court decisions as well that have hurt this process, like my gosh, so many. The rules as it relates to nationwide injunctions. I think that is harming things because there was also an indication through that process that the only way that we can, go about this is by filing habeas petitions. That's going to clog up the regular court system, in addition to the entire backlog that we already have in the immigration system. I think, and I would have to look into this further to see if there can be federal legislation about the way that certain things happen in the court system, because the Supreme Court is just kind of flying by the seat of their pants on some things, and their rules are constantly changing. So if Congress can find a way to allow for more than just the individual, I'm going to file a habeas petition because my rights have been violated and I want to go before a judge, I think that might give a little bit more of an opportunity to reduce the backlog as well.
For sure, 100%. I'm also the daughter of immigrants. My parents came in the 90s. 1993 and 1999 respectively, became citizens in 2011. So you do the math. It's almost 20 years just to become a legal citizen. And the argument that I often hear is people want folks to come and, quote, do it right. Given how our immigration system can change at a whim, what are some guarantees or protections you would like to see for the legal pathway to citizenship to ensure that, like, as you mentioned, people have more opportunities to become legal citizens and don't have to rely on asylum or temporary protective status or other means to enter into this country?
Number one, I think if we can reduce the time that it takes for people to have to go through the application process. As you mentioned, it is extremely lengthy. It takes years, and people are held in limbo during that time. There are people who don't have a lot of means who are coming to this country to make something of themselves. I would like for the protections that we have in the Constitution for people who are accused of a crime as far as getting counsel. I would like for that to apply in the immigration system. It doesn't currently. There is no provision that requires that somebody who is in the immigration court system can have counsel appointed to them if they can't afford it. I would love for that to apply there too. It's like a parallel world that there's so much intersection with the criminal system, and yet the due process protections that we have in the criminal system don't apply in the immigration system. And I think that needs to be talked about out in the open, because if people know about it, we can work together to change it. It is, oh man, I just had another thought about it, and that one went. Give me a second.
Well, while our candidate is trying to recollect her thoughts, I'd like to ask the 9 people in the room to please tap the screen. Please share this out. We are not going to be up here much longer, so just promote this live however much. There is also a pay link in case you want to help donate to Chelsea directly. And I'm sure the candidate it will probably share a means to donate if they have an Act Blue or something along those lines at the end of the.
Thank you. I think we can have education go a lot further. And one thing that we hear a lot is that, oh, it's illegal, they're illegal, they're illegal. Let it be known, for the record, even though there's no record here, but for the record, let it be known that overstaying a visa is not a crime. It's not. It's a civil infraction. Civil infractions do not come with the threat of jail. They do not come with any threat of incarceration. So we need to have even a change of language, because people aren't illegal. Actions that people can take can be, but people themselves, I don't believe any human is illegal. And so I think we need to reframe how we discuss the immigration system and the way that we put forward that information, the way that the media puts forward that information. There needs to be just an entire reframe of the way that we talk about this, because saying illegal immigrants, saying, oh, these people are illegal, these are illegals, it is further dividing us. It is further creating this hatred and scapegoating of an entire community. And it's just not right. And it's not okay.
I agree. 10 minutes left. I really, really don't like I have to end this conversation. But
This is
like I
so
said
much
earlier, that
fun.
just means you have to come back, because
For sure.
Virginia's primaries aren't until August. So we have 4 more months. Well, actually, no, we're in May. 3 more months of, the ability to get to know you more and hear more about your platform, things of that nature. If anyone in the chat has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I know Ericka would love to hear your questions. And this is just gearing her up for when she makes it to Congress, and she's going to answer questions from reporters. So whatever you guys have to ask, feel free to leave it in the comments. And it honestly, I've said it on this platform before, it does not matter if you are Republican or Democrat or independent or no party affiliation at all. Our politicians represent the entire constituency. whether there's an R, a D, whatever letter next to their name. And so
I'm politically homeless.
yes, and there's those who are politically homeless. They feel like they're not sure who to go to. Oh, that is, thank you, Hillary, because that is a very good question. There are a lot of people who feel disenfranchised by both parties. I host lives on the regular, obviously talking to people, trying to get them to vote. And I often hear both sides aren't doing anything for me, or people who leans left are like, the Democratic Party's not left enough, or the Democratic Party isn't doing what I thought they would do. So how would you encourage people to get out there and vote, whether that's for you or just for a candidate in general? And two, the second question, what can you do, or what will you do to help strengthen the Democratic Party as is? Because 2024, we saw the play out of 90 million people chose not to vote. A good majority of them leaned on the left. So yeah, though, kind of a two-part question. So first, what would you do to encourage people to vote, and what will you do to kind of strengthen the Democratic Party to ensure that the base does not feel left behind?
I think people need to be excited about what a candidate is for, or the candidate themselves. I think they need to hear something that resonates with them and gets them interested in participating in the process. And folks, that starts at the primaries. That's not I'm going to wait until the November general election and see which candidate's on the ballot. I need to go and choose who is the candidate that most fits my values in the primary, because I'm excited about this candidate potentially representing me after the November general. So having policies that speak to people, talking about issues that are important to people. I remember in 2024, a lot of people, particularly on the left, they were upset about Kamala's position as it relates to Palestine and the Blue Country. And we saw that a lot of them didn't vote because of people's stances as it relates to those two countries and the conflict itself, the G-side itself. And so having a candidate who isn't afraid to say what it is, to say that the Blue Country is committing G-side in Palestine, I think it's important to say those things out loud, because then we can show people that, we're not like everyone else. And I don't think a progressive candidate would really be like the rest of the establishment. It is something to get people excited, but also it's the right thing. And I think that's a lot of what people are looking for. They want to see people, politicians, candidates, whatever we want to call them. They want to see people who are doing the right thing for other people. They want to see candidates who are in the race for the right reasons. And I think that's another way of getting them excited. And so we have a portion of our website that is donated to or dedicated to voting. And we can have people through that section on our website register to vote right then and there. So if we're talking to somebody and they're not registered to vote, hey, let's help you right here. We're trying to make it easier for people to actually get to the polls. So if somebody has an inability to make it to the polls early or on election day because they don't have transportation, we want to help them, and we will help them in any way we can, even if that means, going and picking them up and taking them to vote wherever they need to go vote. So not just making this about the candidate or the campaign, but really truly centering the people. I think that's also going to help the Democratic Party, because it shows that it's not just the other side of the Republican coin. It is a party that is actually for community and for the people. And I don't necessarily know if the establishment Dems are that way, but I'm hoping that either one of two things happens. Either they become that way, or progressives like myself, Vance Bostic, again in 2 years, and others I hope that we can push out the establishment.
Amen. Everett, let me just ask Chelsea's question and then you can go ahead. The
Absolutely.
question is, do you have a website where people can sign up to phone bank for you?
Yes, we do. My website is erickakopp.com. The spelling is exactly as it's spelled here, ERICKAKOPP.com. And there is a tab listed for volunteer. We do have a section on there about phone banking. However, we do not have phone banking set up yet. So we just paid our filing fee today, and the rest of the money in our campaign account is what we have to work with. We are working towards getting phone banking set up. So it is not presently, but in the very near future, we will get there.
All right. And I liked what you were saying just a moment ago about being for the people. And that was actually a really good segue into my question. I have a saying that in the primaries, I'm pushing for my candidate, and in the general, I'm selecting the candidate I'm going to push.
Yeah.
So the question is, we've seen a lot of establishment Dems and people like John Fetterman that have seem to completely change their position. How responsive are you going to be to pressure from your voters? I want you to be. I want candidates that are going to have strong resolve when they're getting pushback from the opposition in office, but I want them to be responsive to voters. So, can you tell me how you hope how to thread that needle?
Absolutely. And I can tell you that just the other day, the fellow Courage candidates and myself, we filled out a form, different kinds of things that we're agreeing to once we're in office. And one of those was, do you agree to have a kind of transparent way of showing your calls received, emails received, that sort of thing? So transparency, showing who is, not necessarily who, but how many people are reaching out to us and the issues that they're reaching out to us about. I my platform is access and accountability through action, and accountability applies to me too. So I certainly want for my constituents to reach out to me about concerns that they have. If they believe strongly about an issue or a bill, a piece of legislation, one way or another, I want them to let me know what they're thinking, what they're feeling about it. I don't want to do anything that harms my community or my constituents, because they're the whole reason why I'm here today running it all. And so I want for that communication to be there among constituents, myself. And then if I'm getting pushback from the opposition about supporting a bill that is pro-people or not supporting a bill that is detrimental to the people, a little side of me might come out. And let's just say that I am not afraid to tell somebody to sit the F down, because if they're trying to get me to sign on to something that is harmful, it's not going to happen. And I don't care what they try to hold over me. Good luck finding anything, by the way. But I mean, I'm not doing this for anything other than to elevate people, to put my community on my back and take them with me to the District of Columbia. And so if Republicans want to try to hurt me for, doing my job and supporting the constituents of my district, bring it on.
I love that answer. I love that. It's such a good answer. I was gonna say, listen, we at the minute mark, but I don't care. I have these two very important questions. Shout out to Cred for asking them. They kind of relate to one another. So I'll start with the first one. DNC Chair Ken Martin has released a Democratic playbook that focuses on a long-term 10-year strategy to rebuild the party into a permanent majority. And the key pillars of his playbook are to organize everywhere, so moving beyond battleground states and targeting all 50 states, a national coordinated campaign, so establishing a permanent year-round campaign structure rather than just focusing on elected cycles or election cycles, reconnecting with voters, specifically aiming the voters that they lost in 2024, which were the working class and young voters, a registration blitz, so a targeted effort to increase voter registration, particularly on college campuses and in states like Nebraska, Kentucky, and Florida, and focusing on state primaries. So, hearing his playbook, what are your thoughts on that?
I think generally speaking, it's an okay strategy. Do I think it could have been put in place 15 years ago? Yes. But I also think the way that the DNC and its organizations that are under its umbrella, like the DCCC and the DSCC, I think they focus on candidates that are more of the same. And now you will never see the DCC or the DCCC backing somebody like me, because I'm not the type of candidate that they can control, at least in my view. They have picked a candidate that is very much more of the same, more establishment, somebody who frankly gives lip service to the things that they talk about. I don't know that they have any action behind their words. And that's pretty consistent with what we've seen of candidates chosen by the party itself. So while I think their strategy is good, okay, all right, I think they need to do better about who it is they're selecting, because if they're continuing to select the same people year after year, it doesn't really matter what kind of effort they put forward on the ground, because it's going to be same-ish, different day.
That is true. That is true. And Cred, he hosts lives here on TikTok. He has been speaking to leftists, and they kind of echo those same sentiments of like, what is even the point if they're just going to keep running establishment like moderate candidates, but then they say, oh, we want more progress. And then the last question, kind of similarly to the 2026 playbook, the democratautopsy.org released a study. I don't know if it's a study or what exactly they did, but it is titled How Democrats Lost the White House. And they touch on 6 points. Voter disenfranchisement, Biden's betrayal, abandoning the base, losing the working class, failing on the blue country in Gaza, and then losing young and progressive voters. Hearing those 6, what is the word? Those 6 elements as to why Democrats lost the White House, which one sticks out to you as the one that you feel is probably the most prominent one? And what would you do, because they do offer a path moving forward, but what would you do to ensure that this does not happen in Virginia, but also on the national level?
I think all of them play such an important part. I'm not sure specifically what they're referring to as Biden's betrayal, but the one thing that jumps out
I
to
can read
me.
into it.
Sure.
So they define Biden's betrayal as his disastrous decision to run for re-election and his stubborn refusal to step aside until very late in the process, robbing voters of a democratic primary process, creating confusion and chaos, and severely hindering Democrats' chances. So that's what they define as Biden's betrayal.
I think that plays a lot into it. At the end of getting to the end of the summer of 2023, I guess it was, there was only one option. And it truly did eliminate any opportunity for there to be another candidate that might have energized the base more. There was not a whole lot of time for Kamala after she ended up becoming the nominee, to do much to really get engaged with the folks that she was meeting. And I applaud her for her efforts, truly. I would have liked to see, well, and I find some faults too with that. They kind of kept a leash on Tim Walz a little bit too. I feel like he was really at the start, like even before he was named the VP choice, he was really coming out hard. And I remember seeing him on a news story where he's, just calling it like it is. And I loved that. I think a lot of people would have loved that. A lot of people would have loved to dive into the issues more. And I think also there was not a whole lot of time for them to really know their base, to know what it was that young voters were looking for, to know that people wanted to see the nominee for the Democratic Party take a harder stance against the blue country and in favor of Palestine, or at least in favor of helping the people of Palestine, and not supporting the blue country. I think there were a lot of things that rolled into this. And I think if we had a real primary process, that things absolutely could have been different. And all of this, I think, goes into Biden's betrayal. But there are other elements that are encapsulated within that.
100%, for sure. Obviously, 2028 is, I keep telling people I don't want to hear about 2028 until we get over these midterms, because I don't care for Gavin Newsom. I don't want to hear about him. Let us see how midterms play out, how 2027 goes, and then we can talk about 2028. Because trying to worry about 2028 is why Joe Biden did not get the votes he needed in 2022 to keep his majority. Like, it's pretty much the Obama effect. Like in 2012, Obama won, and then like the DNC did zero to secure him having a majority again in 2014, and then why am I repeating history? We know.
Yeah,
we were all there. But
absolutely. It's been a lot of resting on people's laurels. Like, okay, we get a majority, great. But then it's like, we don't know what to do with it. And there's more focus on protecting it than actually doing anything for the people. And then things flip. And so I think perhaps the DNC and Ken Martin specifically, they have potentially a good strategy in having a year-round campaigning process. But I think that could work against them too, as far as voter burnout.
yeah, for sure. Because a lot of people are already burnt out as is, and having people engage with the voting process for a year at a time can get, it can be detrimental. I got you, Hillary. Thank you. Does anyone have any final questions for Ericka? Anything that they would like to ask, want to inquire about? We do have the goal of 25 left. Do not fret if we do not hit that goal. Just having this live was enough for me. So thank you. I'll give it like a minute to see because there's always a lag, there's always a delay. So we'll see if anyone has any final questions.
I do want to go back to what Ms. Cake said. I absolutely agree. Latent misogynistic and anti-Black sentiment worked against Kamala. I think you're absolutely right. I would love to say that this country is ready for a Black female president, but it wasn't. And it's just sad to me that people can think so poorly about somebody because of the fact that she is a she and what she looks like. We need to do better.
We do. Who's in this request? All right, we're not gonna take that. With that, Thank you so much, Ericka, for being here. I truly, truly appreciate you being on here and, answering our questions and just talking a little bit more about your platform and the obvious impacts of what redistricting will look like for you. I want Virginia to be redistricted, but they can wait until after this primary is over. Wait till after the midterms and then, solidify the map, because I would hate for you to have to leave your district and then try to essentially re-campaign in a new one and deal with all the logistics behind that. But thank you so much. What are some ways we can help you with your campaign? I know you have the volunteer link on your website. Do you have an Act Blue? What are some things we can do to help with your campaign?
Yes, and just want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. I really, really enjoyed this, so thank you. I do have an Act Blue. You can reach me on my Act Blue. I'm not sure exactly what the HTML link is off the top of my head, but I promise you it is on my website, erickakopp.com. There, you can also sign up to volunteer with us. We're really on our last push for petition signatures to get us over the threshold and really have some additional signatures on top of that so that we don't end up in a situation where potentially signatures get thrown out. As we saw, unfortunately, with Vance Bostic. And frankly, seeing that yesterday, it broke my heart. But yes, we will have opportunities for phone banking, for text banking. There are presently opportunities for canvassing. So if there is something other than that you want to do, we're super flexible. We have opportunities for remote options, like doing some data cleanup or finding people's phone numbers or email addresses. And we could use all the help we can get.
As I said earlier, thank you, Ericka, for being here. Please come back in the meantime, in between time, before the August 4th primary, because I would love to hear updates. And I know more people would love to hear from you as we get closer to the primary. Thank you to everyone who came and supported, all the gifters, the commenters, the tappers, the sharers, everyone who did the due diligence of pushing the live out. I will be uploading this live to YouTube at some point this weekend, so I will obviously tag you, Ericka, in like the TikTok video, want to say like, hey, this video is out, so that people can watch it in case they, missed parts of it, or Everett, what you want? I know it's gonna be nice, but Everett, what you gotta say? Unless that was an accident, because sometimes people do accidentally request when they're trying to tap the screen, but I never know. So
Yeah, that was an accident.
oh well,
No
you can stay up
worries.
here while we say goodbye.
And if you want to tag me in the YouTube video as well, I'm at EK4VA on just about every social media platform except X, because no, and Blue Sky at erickakopp.com.
Period. I will definitely make sure to tag you in the YouTube video. Thank you everyone for being here. Next week, Monday, will be a regular live stream where I kind of just, debate or talk to voters. On Wednesday, we will have Robert People from Florida's 15th Congressional District on here. I'm really excited to speak to him. I did watch a live last night with him on it. He did a phenomenal job. And I will more than likely ask him about the redistricting going on in Florida, because that will also impact him as well. And then Thursday, so next week, Thursday, we will be talking to Bernard Taylor from Florida's 21st Congressional District.
All the courage candidates. I love it.
Yes, so I'm really excited to hear from those two gentlemen, because now with the 4 Black congressmen saying they're not running for re-election anymore, we're going to need more Black men in Congress. And so I'm hoping that Robert and Bernard are able to fill those gaps and fill them successfully. So really excited to hear from them. If there are any candidates you would like for me to speak to, please let me know. Send me a DM or send them a DM and let them know that I would like to speak with them.
Will do.
I know Bree Woodson tagged a whole bunch of people in my video. I am still cycling through trying to plan out when I'm going to talk to people because I want to make sure people are talked to before their state primary so that people know about them so that they can make it on the ballot in November. Or not no, yeah, make it on the ballot in November. But yeah, this is great. I loved hearing from you. I'm so happy that we did this. And again, like I said, please, please, please come back to the live stream at any point. You are always welcome here.
Thank you.
And
Consider
I
it
can't
done.
wait to hear about the updates. Can't wait to hear about phone banking. And I will see when I can phone bank whenever I can because the semester is done. So I have the summer to act a fool pretty much. So we'll see how I can best help. Yeah. Any parting words for the chat before we end?
I just want to put it out there too. There has never been a Black female candidate in my current district to hold the seat. So I would be the first there. I am biracial. I am half Black. And I think that that's important to note. That's another first. And thank you so much for having me.
We're gonna get all the Black ladies in Congress. If it's anything that I do, it will be get Black women in power.
We need it.
Yes. So thank you guys so much. Bill is live. I think he should be live. Last I saw, he was live. So if you want to check out Just a Bill, Shy, let me double check to make sure he's
Who's
live.
Bill?
Oh, Everett, come on now. Everett does this all the time. So yes, Bill is live. So if you want to check out Bill's live, please go check him out. He is another content creator. He talks specifically to MAGA. There are also great creators on his panel: Queen V. Lee, Aaron Squared, Cred, like I mentioned earlier, but Cred's still at work, so he's probably not on the panel. But I probably won't be on the panel since I literally have to go somewhere after this. But Everett will sometimes be on the panel. He is our white boy whisperer, our MAGA whisperer. His ASMR voice we appreciate around here. But yes, I cannot thank you guys enough for all the support throughout this journey. And midterms are just heating up. So let's keep it going. I am so excited. I can't wait to see how these races play out. And I will be keeping a close eye on Virginia, especially if redistricting goes through. Even if it doesn't go through, I will still keep my eye on it. But
Please
yeah,
do.
I can't express enough thank yous. Like literally, you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here. So thank you so much for that. And
Ericka, you probably expect the host to say thank you, but I want to say thank you on behalf of everyone in the audience. Okay, so
Well,
it is
thank
not
you.
just her blowing smoke for you.
I appreciate y'all having me so much. Like I cannot express how grateful I am to have an opportunity to share my platform with people who would not have otherwise heard about me or the fact that I'm running for Congress. So truly, truly thank y'all. And I look forward to coming back. And in a few minutes here, my sister, AKA my campaign manager, and we are going to go see Kathy Griffin here in Richmond.
Ooh, it's so exciting. Yes.
Y'all have a good night. And
thank you, you too.
I hope to talk with y'all later.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everyone. I will see you guys. We'll see if I come on tomorrow. I might come on tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? I'm feeling a little spicy. So we might come on tomorrow, but if you don't see me tomorrow, you will see me on Monday. So
stay hydrated, everyone.
Bye, y'all.